Hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. George Simon, and welcome to another edition of the new Character Matters program. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we've been in for some time now, and that affects every aspect of our lives, most especially our most intimate interpersonal relationships, our family relations, our community relations, even our international political affairs. Every aspect of our lives is and always has been most impacted by character. Character is that aspect of our personalities that defines how we operate in this world with some integrity, embracing essential values and standards, like the ones I outline in my most recent book, Essentials for the Journey, time-tested principles that I call the 10 Commandments of Character, that history has shown us need to be embraced and taken deeply to heart for us to be decent human beings and capable of fashioning the kinds of civilizations and fashioning the kinds of relationships that grow us in a positive way and make life more harmonious, make things work better. But we have forgotten the importance of character, its paramount role, and we have also largely lost sight of all the essential values that must be learned and embraced and taken to heart and lived out that make for good character. And I'll repeat again, I am not saying that things were always better in the so-called good old days. That's not what I'm saying. But for decades now, there's been an exponential growth in character dysfunction, and it's affected everything in a negative way. And the tide must turn. And so that's why I have written all the works that I have, and that's why I blog on my blog at drgeorgesimon.com and have available hundreds of free articles for you. And that's why I do these podcasts. And last week I introduced a really important topic, and that has to do with what love is and what love isn't. Because a lot of things in life masquerade as love, and a lot of things in life get misinterpreted for love. But discerning exactly what love is really a daunting enterprise, especially in our day and time. And so I want to spend some time with this topic because nothing could be more important. When the sages tell us that only the power of love can overcome not only our personal foibles and issues, but also the world's problems, they know what they're talking about. But discerning exactly what they're talking about, what love is a daunting task, especially in an age of entitlement and relativism, and where there's so much doubt about those attributes of a person's character that really defined the healthy, wholesome person. We have forgotten what it means to be a person of good character, how to define that. And therefore, we've also lost sight of what it means to be truly capable of genuine love and to do the loving that is necessary to bring healing to our relationships, to grow us in a positive direction, and most especially to bring healing to a very troubled world. So I want to spend some more time with that today. Last week I talked about some of the sentiments, human sentiments, that often get confused for love. They get mistaken for love. But today I want to amplify on a couple of things. You see, when I began counseling individuals in highly troubled relationships, I was shocked at first to hear to witness how loosely the term love was bandied about, especially in situations where people were enduring, especially in those relationships where a person was enduring what I considered to be abusive behavior, manipulative behavior. Where someone was enduring verbally, emotionally, psychologically, or even physically abusive behavior, maybe even manipulative behavior, covertly aggressive behavior, any kind of behavior inherently destructive to building a truly wholesome I learned very early on in counseling individuals in troubled relationships how important it is to really understand love and to be able to recognize what it takes to truly love another person and especially what it takes to love ourselves. If you don't have an idea of what it is to be really not just to be not just kind to yourself, but to truly will yourself well, to know how to do that. If you don't know how to properly care for yourself, you can't possibly know what it takes to care for another, not in a positive, healthy way. So one of the things that struck me early on in my work with individuals who were in highly troubled relationships, primarily because one person in the relationship had a significant character disturbance. One thing I noticed is how a person's definition of love kept them trapped in a relationship. I would ask questions like, well, maybe you could muse a little bit about what it is that prompts you to want to tolerate certain kinds of behaviors, why you might give it a pass, why you begin to doubt yourself when your gut tells you you're being mistreated, aggressed upon, preyed upon, exploited, etc., etc. And I was shocked by the number of times that I would hear something the equivalent of, but I love him, or but I love her, something to that effect. Well, when we love properly, when we know what love is, we don't just accept any behavior, nor do we tolerate certain things. Anyone who has raised a child knows that at certain stages of the game, at certain stages of development, the child wants to put just anything in their mouth. In psychology, some psychologists still refer to this as the oral stage. And any loving parent knows who's had the proper education and background in these things knows that some things just aren't good to put in your mouth. So when they witness the child wanting to put something potentially harmful in their mouth, they take it away. And the child might cry. The child might pitch a fit. And if you haven't got the strength to bear witness to the suffering, even allow the suffering for a minute before comforting, and if you haven't got the courage to say no and to enforce no, then that child could really hurt themselves, might even die. This is love. It's not a sentiment, it's a behavior. It's a willing of well, and it has to start with a willing of well for ourselves. We have to know in the deepest recesses of our soul what it is we truly want and need within a relationship. And then we have to be willing to set some reasonable expectations for behavior and set some reasonable limits on misbehavior. We have to be willing to say no at the right time. We will have to be willing to say yes. And yes, we have to be willing to forgive, but we also don't have to be doormats. It's all a matter of cultivating the kind of discipline where we know what it's like to will well for ourselves, and we will the same for another. And that doesn't mean we tolerate what can hurt us or kill us, especially what might kill the spirit, lead us into a depressive place, lead us into an anxious place. Learning to love is serious business. It's what we're here for. And it's the greatest power on earth, and it's the only thing that can save us. And yet, despite eons of evidence to the contrary, we place our faith in power and might, in rules and structures. We're no safer today than we were decades ago. As a matter of fact, in many ways, we are less safe. And we have weapons that can destroy everything, every living thing, many times over. We don't seem to learn the lessons that we need to learn. And this is a mark of character disturbance, by the way. The single biggest evidence for character dysfunction is not just the failure to learn, because we always learn. The most definitive evidence of character dysfunction is the failure to learn what is necessary to learn from experience to actually make things better, to make things well, to be healthier, to grow things in a positive way. Disturbed characters do the same kinds of crazy things over and over again, experience the same negative results, and don't seem to take to heart the necessity of changing course or of modifying approach. That's the very definition of character dysfunction. And we keep repeating the same mistakes. And so I'm going to keep talking about this topic because of its vital importance. Love is the only thing that can save us personally, once we know what it is to properly love ourselves and how to do it. Love is the only thing that can save our relationships once we know how to properly do that. And in the end, it's the only thing that will save the world from a lot more headache. We're one big dysfunctional family, and the dysfunction has to do with how slow we are to learn the language and the walk of genuine love. Too many things deceive us. Too many things placate us. Too many things allow us to settle, disturbingly settle, for less than what we're hardwired for in the deepest recesses of our soul. So I'm going to keep talking about this over the next few weeks, and I hope you'll tune in to future editions, and I hope you'll take advantage of all the material on the blog at drgeorgesimon.com. So please tune in again next time when we continue this discussion, and I will have an announcement then about the upcoming live stream of the show where I can actually take some questions. So thanks very much for tuning in. Talk to you again on another edition of the new Character Matters. Dr. George Simon, take care.